You might have guessed it. We're going to talk Coinbase today. What a crazy day it's been. Whipsaw action all around. But Coinbase this morning, everyone was sort of talking about the decrease in users, the smaller amounts that people had in their accounts, and less activity. Pretty much across the board, there were misses across that board. So it was a pretty negative sentiment. But the damage was done in the aftermarket. And on top of this, you also had Bitcoin moving, man. That 30,000 getting taken out. Some battles still there happening. Now, I got a 30-minute chart up. I mean, it doesn't even, I could put a 15, a 5, a daily. It doesn't matter. Just an absolute wipeout from close to $100 just a couple of weeks ago or a week ago. And then last night, we had that carnage on the earnings report, and you can sort of see that in the dip down. A lot of times you get this with aftermarket earnings, this opportunity to find some liquidity levels because you're gapping so far. If you're bearish on it, it's like, well, you're in new territory. It's not like you're going to get to short off of 75. That's not going to happen for you. You're not going to get short off of 80, so you can forget about levels like that. We're really just looking at these channels here. We're consolidated with a top at about 65. And then this little bottom area here right around 62. So that's a target range. We come in the morning, and thankfully we're actually sitting in it. If you remember back to like GE when they had their massive flush to the downside, and sometimes you just did not want to miss. You wanted to be sitting in this trade. If it was below 65, I knew I was shorting into it, but we had something else this morning. And that, of course, was the CPI report at 8:30. So when it came in here, you get real close to this 8:30. And any guesses where 8:30 is on this chart? If you can't figure it out, I don't know what to tell you. But we had very, very tight stops in front of the number. As a matter of fact, we're doing some scalping because until that number hit, I was actually stopping out right up here at 63 and was going to engage that 65 because I didn't want it spiking me on the 8:30 number. What ends up happening is 8:30 drops, and my gut instinct, which I think was the right call, doesn't look like the right call here. I still had a scalp order out. Cancel my other bids. I had some dip buys that I liked, AMD, NVIDIA at the time, that I thought were deep enough. And then the number, when that number came out, we absolutely flushed the market. It was like, no, cancel those bids. You don't want them. By that time, I'm already filled once, and not much you can do about it. It's a winning trade, but not too happy about it. That should have been down around that 60 area, getting an extra buck. After this, you're kind of in rarefied territory here. In the post-market, you did head right down in here, close to that 58 mark, right? So that was going to be the next target out. And once we hit that, you're holding with a bit of a trail. I joked around, kind of joking, was joking, that we'd see $50, which oddly enough we did. But in the morning, we actually managed to hold at about 52. And once we cleared the 55 level and got halfway into that range, you're close, you're getting closer. Start thinking about a trailing stop because I think 50 is going to have some bids. It's a monster psychological level in a very popular company. Whether you like them or not, it's going to be heavily traded. You know there's going to be buyers down there. There's going to be short covering down there. So we made sure that we put the trail in. We got triggered out. It just so happens to be on the first major green candle. I mean, that could easily have ended up, you know, gravitating down towards 51, but we did get trailed out here at 53. All in all, we're able to take like almost about $8 on the last of that trade. Not quite to target. There were a couple of trades on the way back in. I'm going to test that 57, nice little scalp trade for a couple of bucks, and then back into 58 in front of what was the previous low on our daily chart. So we think about this maybe forming some resistance on the way back up. It worked once, it did not work a second time, and at that point I was holding out for us to get back into the opening range channel, which we did do right here into 61. I let it come in because it doesn't have to fail here. Like we could come into that channel, come back up to like 62, 63, maybe you come up to 64. I wanted to see the first major turn once we were in the channel. It just so happened to be at 61 and then traded that one down into VWAP. At that particular time, it doesn't look like it, but trust me, the market actually felt like it had a chance to squeeze up. It didn't because UVXY cannot break the lows. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in our show, but it did eventually go to 50 where I did have some long trades and scalping them out. All said and done, it was a good trade, but one that we had to be a little bit aggressive getting into because once 8:30 hit and CPI was out, it was a flush was on, and you just had to hold on to your shorts. Coinbase, look forward to seeing what happens when 50 gets on the bid again. But what a wild ride it was. You came in, you knew this is one that everyone wanted to be involved with, especially to the short side. Worked out today, but man, was that CPI number a help.